staff member's dog, and we give them a bath, and then the students get to dry it off with a hair dryer. And it's a really interactive, fun way to have kids help with self-care. And then we have hair dryers with a game using 2 switches. So our student is controlling both hair dryers and seeing which person wins. So yeah, you can get really creative, and our OTs are so incredibly creative at iHope, so have such a great time playing.
Yeah, and when we're thinking about play and leisure, those are activities that are really supposed to be restorative. So they're supposed to be fun, exciting, and motivating to the student. Especially for our students, a lot of what they're asked of during the day is really difficult for them. So finding these moments of just like joy that are fun and motivating and also build skills is really important. In this picture, I had one student, I was having a little hard time finding stuff that was motivating for her. And so I had mentioned that we have scissors that can be plugged into a switch, and you turn them on and they can cut. So I told her that she could cut my hair, and she was overjoyed by the thought of it. So that was, we'll really just go to any length to find something that's meaningful and motivating, and yeah.
And how much hair did you get chopped off?
I think she cut like 10 to 12 inches off, so
yeah.
Go big or go home.
This is a computer game that we use with our students. It's a website called Help Kids Learn. You have to have a subscription for it, and they have a lot of amazing Switch adaptive games. However, there's very few websites that offer games that can be accessed with 1 or 2 switches. And you can play with them later. I'm going to show you some pictures of them, and we'll have them on our computers when we're done with this talk. This is a game that requires 2 switches. You can see it's CVI friendly, so there's a black background, simple pictures, and then 1 switch can build the rocket, and then the second switch, the astronaut can come in, and then it launches. So this is a great way for students who can use 2 switches, or a motivating way for students to learn 2 switches with 2 different functions. We also have games, so we have a variety of 8 games here that are all activated with a single switch. So you might see they might have movements and just some strong visuals with the hit of a switch. So it can be very simple to a little more complex. So we also call that cause and effect. So how do our students access these computer games? We do have hardware that support that. This is a switch interface. It's what I was using until something glitched, and I think it was the switch, not this. This is an amazing piece of equipment. And so what you can do, you can see in this picture here with you can plug in up to 5 switches. You can see where the arrows are pointing. And then we have a color-coded rows, so to pick out which switch function you want. So you can move your mouse, you can press space, enter, left click, right click, double click, arrows for whatever computer activity that you want them to do. So you can make basically anything switch adapted. Oh, why did I do that? Okay, well that's the switch then. So I'm gonna go back. And so I've done some really great online shopping with my kids. They're really motivated when you say they can use your credit card on Amazon. So then I will just hover over, click credit card, and they will use their switch, and then they get to purchase that, and then the item arrives, and then they can open it and see what we bought together. So only get the cheap stuff though, but it's really fun to do that online shopping, especially with our older kids.
So the school we work at, there's students aged 5 to 21. So as they get older and their interests changing, we're keeping up with the tech to help them continue to engage in meaningful activities across the lifespan. So there's lots of different vocational activities that our students can participate in with a couple of different tools and adaptations. So the first thing we have is a picture of a power link. It's a white circle and it has 2 outlets. So basically with this tool, anything you would plug into the wall to turn on can be plugged into Switch Adapt. So you think of things like a blow dryer you saw earlier. If we're doing cooking activities in the school's kitchen, we can use a blender to turn on and off to make smoothies, any sort of thing we're making. A coffee grinder, sometimes we'll have the students grind coffee and then they'll have like a coffee sale in the school and sell to staff. Hand mixers. We also have a tool called a pour cup. So as you press the switch, it will pour out ingredients. So we'll use that in cooking activities to measure ingredients, pour ingredients. We also then can use that tool during art projects to pour paint, in games to like pour out a dice, to roll the dice. So we can get really creative with those tools. And here is a video of a student using switches mounted by his head to turn on a blender, and he's actually helping to blend his own lunch in this video. And I think for a lot of our students, they really enjoy being a part of the activities, and it can be really empowering and motivating to have control over a lot of these activities. Some other vocational activities we do with our students are housework or office work. So with the Power Link that I mentioned, we could plug a vacuum into it. They can help mom and dad at home turning the vacuum on, turning the vacuum off. In our school, students will help admin. We'll plug the paper shredder in and they can turn it on to shred paper. The pour cup they can use to water plants. We've had students who've had class pets like a fish, and they can change the water. They can use the pour cup to feed the fish. We have therapy dogs who come in, and they can give the dog a treat using these tools. So really just with one piece of assistive technology, we can do a lot of different activities. Up on the screen, you'll see a picture of what's called a Tapio interface. It's a small white USB, and then with an adapter from Apple, it can be plugged into an iPad to make iPad activities accessible, similar to what you saw with the Switch interface. So something we use a lot at iHope is something called a recipe. It's an accessibility feature that's built into Apple products. Basically, anything you would do with your finger, tap the middle of the screen, swipe right, swipe left, scroll up, scroll down, a custom gesture you can program in so that when the student hits their switch, it will do that gesture for them. This feature has really opened doors for a lot of our students, because there's so many things students are motivated for on the iPad that they can then do completely independent, whether they're at school, at home. We do a lot with recipes at our school. Here's just a few of them, so they can take pictures. So press the little button on the iPhone to take the picture. With that, we can make it a two-switch activity. So one switch can take the picture, one switch can change the orientation of the camera so they can decide if they want to take a selfie or take a picture of something that they see. They can scroll on Instagram, so you can make that recipe scroll up, scroll down. A lot of times they'll take pictures for classroom activities, and then they can scroll through them, and they can scroll right and tell us, I like that one, or delete that one, or we can create the recipe to scroll right and then scroll back left. We use this a lot for access to books. So a lot of books that you'll find on the internet, you tap a specific place to turn the page, or it's a tap in the middle of the screen, or a scroll left to right. We'll also do a lot on Spotify, Pandora. They can make their own music playlists and then control them, so we can set it up for them to play pause, scroll through a playlist. Same thing for controlling podcasts, and then also online shopping. Often we'll have them scroll on Amazon. When they see something they like, we use a voice output that tells us to stop, or I want to buy that. So really the opportunities for them to participate on the activities are endless with this feature. Which it brings us to, unfortunately, there are a lot of barriers to accessibility. I know we've mentioned a few. One that kind of Chow mentioned at the beginning, some accessible things that are available, like the Xbox controller, other adaptive controllers, are not accessible to our students and their needs. Also, if you think of websites that already exist for children to play games, a lot of those websites are really visually complex. And if you think of companies who are making websites for children, that's what attracts children, bright colors, lots of fun pictures. That's not really suitable for our students. Also on these websites, you'll see there's a lot of ads and pop-ups that can get in the way of accessibility. Some of these games are also really complex. They're based in timing and repetitions, which for our students and their motor demands are very difficult. Then we're also thinking about what interfaces we use on the computer. So up here you see two images side by side. In the classroom, a lot of times when our students have projects, we'll have them look through images on the internet and pick the ones they want to use on their poster board, or if they're designing a blog or making a scrapbook, we want them to be a part of that process. And when we're setting up that activity for them, we want to make sure we have the best interface. So on one side, you'll see the interface that Google has when you Google images. And so initially, when you Google the image, you'll see a row of multiple items. And then as you click on one, it will, on Google, it gets slightly bigger on the side. So up here we have a picture of dogs. But as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5 pictures of dogs on the screen, especially with students who have CVI, as Chow talked about. This image is really visually distracting. You almost don't even know what image you're looking at. On the other side, you'll see what Yahoo Images interface looks like. And on this side, you see one picture of a cat. It's blown up, it's taking up almost half the screen, and they've blacked out the rest of the background. So when we're working with our students, we would tend to pick the Yahoo interface. It's easier for them to look at. There may be settings on Google where you can change how that looks. That's not something we've figured out. It wasn't actually always like that. That's something that's changed in a few years, but it's something we're thinking about as we train families, as we work with ourselves, really just what is easier and more accessible to our students. This next thing, almost an obvious one, money. So we have a picture of a board game up here. It's called Pie in the Face. It's a bright yellow box. On Amazon, you can buy the Pie in the Face board game for $17.99. Enabling Devices actually has a commercially sold Switch adapted version, which is awesome. The cost of that is $154.95, which is way more than double the price of it. With the Enabling Devices board game, it also doesn't come with a Switch to use the board game, so that would be another cost for the family. It also doesn't come with a mount to mount that Switch, and those things add up. And kind of as you see today too, tech can be tricky. So if it breaks, which it may, or you need troubleshooting, it can cost a lot of money to have accessible activities. And then just general limited opportunities. At our school, we almost have this hub of accessibility for our students that is amazing. We have a lot of access to tech. We have a lot of knowledge between the people who have trained us, our peers, but that's not always true for when they graduate. There's a lot of red tape. One of the funding sources in New York City kind of adds complexity to that. They'll pay for adults with disabilities to participate in activities in the community, but the activities have to be activities that anyone can go to because they're looking for inclusion. On the other side of that, you have students who are like ours. When they go to those programs or they go to cooking classes that you or I would go to, they don't have any of this tech available to them. So that kind of leaves them with not much to do when you lose the school setting. Same with the websites that Cha was showing you. Help Kids Learn, which she mentioned, that's a website that our school purchases that our students can then use. When they leave us, they lose access to that. Right now, there's also not a lot of access to caregivers for people to support them as they go to these activities. So there's a lot to think about in maintaining kind of what is created in the school setting and carrying that over through the course of a lifespan.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about what we do at iHope, you can follow us on Instagram, iHopeNYC. And you can also contact me and Nora. My email is chow@hellochow.nyc, and Nora's is nora.henry@yai.org. Please reach out to us. We love talking about accessibility for our students, and we want to advocate for the best for our students. But now I would love to have you all come up here and try some of the technologies. We would love for you to record your own messages and how you might think of an activity and how someone might have different messages on there for that. We have our games. We're going to have some computer games up here. Play around with the mounts. See how it's not always easy trying to figure out where to mount these. So that is all we have right now. Does anyone have any questions before we start playing?
We'll start with a question from. So thanks to everyone on the YouTube stream as well. We had about 20 plus people there. So we had a question. We'll start with a question from YouTube and then take a question here in the room, and then we'll take a question from YouTube. So there's a question. It'd be helpful to identify any tools or approaches or organizations that try to work and play with children who are cognitively disabled, not injured, no physical trauma or disease. So I guess just a question on maybe tools or approaches for cognitive disabilities.
Can you ask a question again? So is it like where to find those resources?
Yes.
Okay, great. So so I think a lot of times if kids receive the services that they are mandated for with ADA laws, and hopefully they are at a place that has accessible education, so they're going to get a lot of that through their schools, or if they have outpatient activities as well. Unfortunately, some of the organizations that offer assistive technologies to students, those are pretty hard to find, and for parents to, on top of managing their kids' school, medical needs, and their other children, no one has time to figure that out. So, Nora, what else do you have to say about
I would just recommend too, OPWDD is a New York State service for people with disabilities that families can register their children with. I believe it's once they turn 8 years old, and then there's lots of resources within there that can connect to services you may be interested in.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that it's not just a therapy like occupational therapy, speech, or physical therapy that introduces, although we help with the access component, but there are so many ways that other people can be aware and provide those assistive technologies as well. Yeah.
If you have a question in the room, just raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone.
Has anyone ever used switches before or trialed it with any student? Okay. So I hope that you come up and play. I saw a hand back there. Okay.
And using the neural switch,
Okay.
can you give some examples?
Are you going to say that?
Yes, so we actually had gotten a trial of that switch to use at our school. So we used it a lot with students who had really limited mobility. So one student I used it with, a lot of the movement she gets is in her head. So she can do kind of like an eyebrow raise or a slight turn of the head. So we tried it in a lot of different places. The first place we tried was it comes with like something that you can stick onto skin. We would stick it right there. So when she moved her eyebrows up, you could see on the screen kind of like the movement of the muscle. And when it hit a certain threshold, that would activate the switch. And then we tried on other parts of the body as well, like something as small as a shoulder raise that wouldn't be enough to hit a proximity switch, but then could be picked up by that neuronode switch. I don't know if you have any other examples.
I don't. That was a really great description of that.
So I really like the examples you all showed for doing the highlighting of the images, and you mentioned like yellow and red for the borders. Is there like a technique or tool you use to add those to the images that you'd recommend?
We use a lot of readily available, a lot of people have Microsoft PowerPoint, and creating those black backgrounds and then removing backgrounds of images, then adding the glow feature on them. After you do it a couple times, it's really easy and it provides that adaptation. You can also do it on Canva. A lot of people are using Canva nowadays. I never use Photoshop, but I'm quite certain you can do it on Photoshop. But there are easy ways to add those accessibility features. Yeah.
Okay, we had one more question from online. This was around the recipes. Are the recipes available? Sorry. Are the recipes shareable among occupational therapists, or is there like a community of recipes that exist?
So I can speak to that. Inside Apple products, there are a few recipes that are pre-programmed. I believe it's tap the middle of the screen and swipe left to right. Where to use those, you would just have to plug in a switch or use a Bluetooth switch to set that up. And then from there, you are just creating your own recipe. So it's individual to each device. You would have to program it in there. It sounds complex at first, but it actually, once you get doing it, it becomes pretty intuitive.
Okay, did you,
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Cameron, I'm one of the co-organizers. Are there any other questions? Because I'd like to get you all up here playing with the switches, but before that, I want to say thank you to our live stream attendees. Thank you, live stream. And I wanted to say thank you again to Equal Entry, to Events, Fable, and Google for sponsoring the event, and to the New York Public Library. Chancey Fleet and Jill Rustine have graciously hosted us in their space today. So thank you very much. Go on Meetup and join our group, and come again next month. And for now, enjoy the switches. Thank you.
thank you. Come on up. Yeah, of course. Okay, let us know what you want to do.
I would stop at 5 till 7, so we have 20 minutes in each space.
Yes, okay. Yeah. Hi. So this, we add what's called a battery interrupter. So we had to make a little hole, but then we put a piece of like copper and we solder it onto a mono jack, and then you can make it switch adapted. So most toys that have batteries and have an on-off button can be switch adapted. Yeah. Yeah. And you can also imagine some of our kids have a hard time sustaining, so we do have equipment as well that we can time it so then you can have one switch hit equals X amount of seconds or minutes, which is really great because for some kids, just doing that, might take away all their energy they have for the day. So, yeah. I hope that some of you can try out the hair dryer. Think about activities that, you might do with the hair dryer. It doesn't have to be drying your hair. You saw those cool squig games. And then this will have, if you have a hard time seeing this, I can help you, but it has directives on producing recording. And this one, you can record many messages. Oh, yeah, so you can do, hi, my name is Chow. Welcome to Access NYC. Bye. So, hi, my name is Chow. Yeah. Welcome to Access NYC.
You have to know the number of the missions, just tapping.
Sorry?
So how do kids use that?
So they can use it right here. We can attach another switch, and then they are going to be accessing to say what they want to say, or if it's like a conversation, they wait. So there's so many skills and opportunities for them to communicate. But why don't you take that? Yes, so I haven't, let's see.
You have to have this on a certain...
Yeah, I've used another one before. Actually, can someone hand me that white one? I don't think it's connected to anything. Yeah, but this one, let's see. I just rarely use this one. So let's do times seconds. And I think you might have to turn on. It also could have reset. So let's try this one. I'm more familiar with this one. And let's plug this in. If someone can help me plug this one in. Thank you. And I'm going to plug in the hairdryer right here. Great. Looking good so far. And then we can go into different modes. So we're in, let's see. So we have direct select right now. Don't know what's going on. It could be that this has, how hair dryers do its thing, and I can.
Where's the switch connected?
Oh, you know what? The switch is not connected, so that's why. Yes. So many components. I do this all the time, where there's so many things to plug in and account for. All right. Okay. Thank you. So. This is direct, so you can press it
It's still on
again.
the screen, but stand here so you can be seen on the
Okay,
camera.
great, great. Thank you, thank you. Yes. And then you can play around with the settings, so maybe you want them to activate for a few seconds at a time. And there are a lot of features to get used to, so yeah. Yeah.
What about this one? Is down button? Okay.
Yes, yes. So we put in some hardware and did a little bit of soldering to switch adapt this one. Yeah, and then we have a microlight switch here too. Yeah. So yeah.
So this little device here can be plugged to other toys as
Oh
well?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
got it. Okay.
Any toy that has this mono jack situation right here, so we do have to adapt a lot of toys because most toys don't come with that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that prevent us, prevent kids from playing with what they want to. Hi.
This is pretty cool. Thank you for
Oh, thanks.
showing the
Yeah.
variety of different elements that can
Right,
be used.
because I think especially with single switch users, I think the time is you need a lot of time to interact, and I think even PR wise, you do need a lot of time to be thinking about those things and being patient and learning that patience. As a 10-year occupational therapy is nothing to me, but for most people it'll be like, okay, when is it happening?
Right.
And then you'll be like, okay, hit the switch, and it's not about that, it's about playing with the toys.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, why don't you play around with this and see different configurations of, so this is a microlight switch, it just needs a light touch, and then we can bend this in all different ways that support our students, so why don't you play around? It's a really heavy duty mount. Yeah.
I was hitting it around a little.
Yeah, so it's a great,
So what can this one be used for?
so we want to keep switches in the same spot all the time. So we use mounts so then we can guarantee that it's going to be in a similar spot. Also, if a kid is in a wheelchair and they need a switch at their head, and we might not have that hardware on the chair to put that on. So yeah. So you can imagine, sometimes we have races with 2 or more of these, and the kids are using that, and it's really, really awesome. So thinking about more than just it walking, but it's really fun for the kids. So yeah.
That really grips the table. Look at
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
bending
yeah.
the table.
Yeah. It is very strong. So it's really, yeah. So many angles that you can get, because quite frequently we have to get to these really specific angles, and it's really hard to get to from certain parts of the wheelchair or table. So yeah. Yeah.
I hope it's a private school, right?
Yes, it's a private school, yeah. So, your standard special education school might not have all those accommodations that benefit the students, which is why we exist. We would love to say any accessible education school can provide that, but we know it's the case, especially with our students. A lot of times they're just sitting in front of iPads all day because no one really knows what to do. In addition, all of our students need at least one person, helper, paraprofessional with them at all times, and some of our students have 24-hour nurses. So thinking about the range of disability that benefits from that
I
support.
was just thinking about
Yeah.
the resourcing that
Right.
is afforded at your school versus
Right.
perhaps a public school.
You're not going to get this. We rely heavily on grants. We do have a fundraiser called Art Speaks where kids make their own adaptive art using a lot of assistive technologies, and we raise a lot of money that way. Some kids have other funding sources to get these things, but ultimately insurance is not paying for this. You're lucky if your school has 2 switches, and then what are you going to use with the switch? So it's a huge barrier to that, and we wish that it can be offered to everyone. Also, these switches are very expensive. They're very durable, but they can start at $60 and up more than that. Yeah, they can be hundreds of dollars. So you can 3D print switches. They don't last long, but you can 3D print switches. Yeah. You got to do a little bit of soldering, but you can do the hardware. We have a few, but they don't last very long. But when our kids are like that on it, it's not going to last very long. So, yeah.
Battery operated, right?
So that's not battery operated. So we rely on the battery in this.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. And then you can also make your own switches. You can use it like alligator clips and tin foil and make your own switch. It's just not very durable. Yeah.
See, so it connects into, oh. I
Yeah,
see.
so we have a piece, these wires soldered onto this copper material that's in front of the battery that makes contact with, you know, all those things. Yeah, and then these like break all the time, so we're constantly fussing around with them. But it's worth it for the kids especially, so yeah.
Is this just like an off-the-shelf toy?
Yeah, this is an off-the-shelf toy.
Yeah, it looks like you burned a hole in it to get
Yeah,
through, like a little soldering iron to get
yeah,
through.
so toys that have an on-off button and it have batteries, generally you can switch adapt, so yeah, 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 thank you.
I'm curious,
Yeah.
like other than like touching reaction, what other like things that you guys also helping them like to practice, like motor skills or anything?
Skills,
Yeah.
like other than playing with switches.
Yeah.
We do a lot of activities of daily living, helping them dress themselves, helping them do toileting, wash their hands. We help them access their materials. We do a lot of positioning, so a lot of kids have very specific positioning of their bodies that can help them throughout the day. So what they might need for academics might be different for play, and also accommodating their health. So most of our students are wheelchair users, and sitting in a chair all day is really hard. So we do have time outside of their chairs to do recess, and they might do activities lying down. But when think about how you sit in a chair with the 90 degree, we do strive for that, but at the same time it's very tiring. So there's so many these decisions and accommodating and fatigue and all these things that are what we do in OT. So to get here, to get the mounting, to get the positioning, to get the right activity, to accommodate vision, I think some people forget like what goes into that versus like, oh, you just play, anyone can do that. I'm like, no, I wish everyone can do it, but that's why we have OT, so yeah.
Does the school do other types of services as well? Like
We have speech, physical therapy, vision therapy, hearing, we have academics, we have music therapy, we have an artist with cerebral palsy leading an art group with her communication device. And then we get to do some amazing out-of-school trips. Pre-COVID, we would go to the Met, have New York City Ballet come to us and do adaptive dance. We are developing a swimming program right now. So we do so many amazing things for our kids that they might not have the means to access otherwise. So it's a really special place, but you're not going to see the funding and like all this equipment everywhere. So yeah.
When you're developing, or I guess for the class placement of the students, are you able to have students that you can build maybe like activities around?
Yeah.
Like mutually exclusive needs so that your activities are adaptive to everybody, or how does that
So because our kids vary so much, so we do have materials that are generally accessed by all of our kids, but then we have some smaller adaptations that we can do, like we can use a slant board, some of our kids use black background, but like a lot of it is positioning related, so we individualize everyone, but every student has a one-to-one paraprofessional with them. They all have hours of therapy that's not just work, it's like engagement, access, things like that. So they have a team that can support that, and hopefully it's carried over at home. So I hope that answered the question. Thanks. And we have computer games. They're a little fussy, but we can try if you want.
How do you get access to these newest technologies? Do you have like vendors that come to you?
We have vendors. Yeah, we get a lot of free stuff because, you know, people are like, oh, you're a school, and then we rely on grants and like fundraising for a lot of it. So it's tough. You know, you see a not perfect situation, but more ideal than 99% of what you see out there, and that, you know, that's not always how we want to do things. So let's try this bumper cars game. And hi, I'm gonna take this and set up some switches.
And
Yeah.
just like from my perspective, there's
It's
like
hard.
over that
Yeah. So
It's just
let's.
complicated function. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
how
so
to
we
design
have different colors, so you access each row, and then so it takes a second to like understand that. And so I'm gonna use space right here, and I'm gonna, because it's right here, space green, and
Are they
then
all the same function but different thing?
they're all different functions. So this is space, enter, left click, right click. We have our arrows.
Like I saw the mouse. Like
Yeah,
Like what
yeah.
This is also.
I don't know what this is. It might be for communication devices, but I never use it, so I wish I could tell you that one. So right now, where's this switch? Oh wait, I don't want to connect that. I need a switch. Great, hopefully this will work. So you can play a game with 2 people. I don't have 2 switches right now, but if I don't want to take away switch from anyone, so this is going to be a one-sided game. So here, let's put it right here. And so the kids will be playing and like who's going to win, and you got to really use your switch. So ideally we'll have, so it's just this one, and I would have to, yeah, so it's bumper cars, and then I would have another switch here so then the other car can move, and then we can keep track of like who's going to get the highest score. So that's one way that we can play, like make it interactive. It's not just one student playing one game for themselves. So
Like assisting interaction, just like moving forward and the back, moving forward and the back, just like repeating.
yeah, so this one you want to hit the other car. So that's, yeah. So for other ones we have, we have basketball, we have sequential games as well. So this one, so we use it a lot for our younger kids, but our older kids like it too. So this has like, it's counting, but it's with song, and it's simple, and it plays. So it goes up to 5. So there's many varieties of that. So very simple, but something that our kids really enjoy. But as you can see, like some of our young adults like it, but not, like what else can we make that you can use a single switch for that. So yeah, play around. We can also read digital books using some websites. So we have Tar Heel Reader, and we didn't get to show you this, but this is like very switch adaptable. It is the least sexy web page I've ever seen in my life, but and you can make your own books. So you can space and enter to turn the pages back and forth, and then we can read together. So it's a really interactive experience. So things like that for access to books. And then our kids can rate the book, and they love being really savage about it. So then we ask, and yeah, so it's there's so many things that we can do, but we need more. And that's why I'm here today. So yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks. I'm so glad with the turnout and people learning a little bit. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, I saw you last time. Yes. Your name again is?
Jay.
Jay. Okay. Thanks for coming, Jay. I'm really, yeah.
Oh yeah, find my wireless mic.
I have.
I've got to head out, but
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Bye. Thank you.